Welcome to the Alaskan Journey podcast. My name is Jamin Goecker. I'm your first friend in Alaska, and luckily for you, I'm also an associate real estate broker in South Central Alaska. And today we're going to be talking with somebody who's actually lived here for quite a while, Mike Foster, and he's going to be sharing with us what it's like living up here in Alaska, and really kind of talking about the good, the bad, the ugly, and everything in between. So, Mike, thank you very much for joining us.
Yeah, man, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So, real quick, let's do this. How many years have you lived in Alaska at this point?
So I am coming up June 15th. We'll mark 18 years.
Oh, wow. So that actually makes you really salty as far as like Alaskan standards go.
It does, yeah.
Yeah. So what brought you up here originally?
So my dad's actually always lived up here, and I grew up in a military family, kind of traveling all over lower 48, overseas, and I decided after high school I would move up here and kind of grow that relationship with my dad and just kind of explore. You know, weirdly enough, for me, Alaska was kind of home in the sense that everywhere else I lived, we moved, and I would come up here during the summertime to the same house, to the same neighborhood, to the same people that I knew. So even though I wasn't born here, it was kind of home, right? It was the one place that never moved for me.
Right. And was it like Anchorage area, or where did you go?
Yeah, so we were South Anchorage, kind of off DeArmond area, down by the highway over there.
And I was about to make some joke about being like, an elitist, but I guess back then, like South Anchorage was not really the bougie part of town, huh?
It was not. It's funny. My first memories are very much like trees and woods and having all these places to go and explore and build forts and do all this stuff. Fast forward 10 years and it's all subdivisions and homes.
It's like it doesn't take very long once developed is decided to happen. So what was there to do back then? Like as a kid, like how did you spend your time, 18 years ago in South Anchorage? Well, I guess anywhere in Alaska. How did you spend your time back then?
Honestly, we would get out. So I would come up during the summertime, which is probably spoiled, honestly. I didn't have to kind of deal with some of the harshness, but we'd go south. My family's always had a big staple in Soldotna, Seward area. So we've always really loved to go there, go fishing, go camping, and just kind of be rugged, right? Be outdoors. Like this was my place to just be a kid, pee outside, do all the things you couldn't really do back in the lower 48 without getting some side eyes.
Oh, that's awesome. And like, were you like really into the fishing and all that, or is that something that everyone else was doing and you just kind of did it?
Honestly, I loved the fishing. Some of my favorite memories are king fishing with my dad at places that now you can't even kingfish at, right? Like Alexander Creek. He used to and kind of still does, but once a year his work, they would do a big fishing trip. And so I would come up usually during the summertime and I'd be able to kind of tag along on these adventures. And I just remember just the fish, which were amazing, but also, napping on the boat by noon because we already caught our limit and all the good stuff.
Oh, you guys actually caught king salmon too, because that's the actual trick. Like for me, like I spent, story for me, like growing up, I mean, I was probably like 10 years old, something like that. And, my dad was just like really fixated on trying to get us like some king salmon. And we just kept going back to Ship Creek though in Anchorage. And for those of you who don't know, it is just mud as far as you can see. And just not not the place you would think of as being like, pristine Alaska. It's not what comes to mind. But in retrospect, like, it was like, okay, well, the reason Dad kept going back to Ship Creek is, in the military Air Force, he had like pretty small leash and where he was supposed to be. Okay, that's why we kept going back here. But no, I feel like we spent the majority of a summer down there in that mud just trying to catch something. And one time I hooked into something And like my dad's like going crazy, like trying to get over there to like finally get this thing nabbed. And like you've got the culverts that like the salmon is swimming into, and this one opportunity we have, it just bolted right for the culverts, cut the line on like the sharp edge of the culverts.
Yeah.
So that was the one opportunity we had to catch a king, and we just couldn't make it happen.
Yeah, I was spoiled rotten, honestly. Like to be able to go on these trips, it was a trip that you fly out to. So you go out to Lake Hood, you get on a little float plane. You fly out to Mount Susitna, Sleeping Lady area. And it was just these beautiful lodges. And back then it was flooded with kings. I mean, I remember when it was 2 kings a day.
Oh, wow.
And we would catch it before 10, 11 a.m. And so my favorite thing to do was, after I limited out, was laying out on the boat and then just falling asleep on the river. And I would sleep. My dad and his buddies would hang out and do whatever. And then we would get back to the lodge and go by the campfire. And it was great time. Great time.
Yeah, that's that really blows my mind, having a limit of 2 king salmon per day. Like, I don't know if you can even catch kings now, honestly. Like it's gotten pretty sparse the past couple of years.
Well, yeah. I mean, even if you can find them, it's something that I do not take lightly. But I also look at it as, for like my kids, it's kind of a bummer that they won't get to necessarily have that kind of opportunity. Not unless we go out really far.
Yeah. So kind of enjoyed growing up here, kind of doing almost like the quasi snowbirding, kind of a lifestyle coming up here. And when did you decide, like, you wanted to come up here to be a bit closer to your dad and everything? When did you make that move and come up here? Was it like when you were 18, or when did that happen?
Yeah. So actually, when I was a junior in high school, we were living in North Carolina at the time. And my stepdad got orders over to Germany. And it was kind of at that moment, I had moved. This was going to be my 3rd high school. I started in California, went to North Carolina. Now I was going to finish in Germany. Just kind of this constant restart. And I pretty much told myself, after this, I really want to kind of settle down somewhere, which sounds funny as an 18-year-old kid feeling like I wanted to settle down.
Mm-hmm.
But I just wanted a little bit of stability. So I knew that, and at the time, honestly, going to a foreign country, I was like, what the heck am I getting into? Like, this seems so wild. And so I really wanted to come up to Alaska after I graduated high school. And, 10 days-ish after I graduated, I was on a plane.
And what was the plan, like, when you got here? Was it just get there and then we'll figure it out from there? Or were you very structured and like knew exactly what you were going to do after that?
Well, honestly, it was very structured, but it all kind of went to hell in a handbasket, to be honest with you. So the idea was coming out here, going to college, going to go through and work to get my business degree, and then see where life took me. That took quite a turn for me. Didn't exactly play out the way that it had planned to, but it was equally as beneficial and good.
Yeah, outstanding. So what was some of the initial challenges you had when you got up here and were kind of adjusting to living up here long term?
So, truthfully for me, there was a lot of challenges. I was 18. I was just coming out of high school. I was, moving out of, for all intents and purposes, my parents' house, my family's home, right? I was moving out of my mom's home. Yes, I was moving into my dad's home, but it was kind of a different feel for me, So I was trying to navigate college. I was trying to navigate making friendships and relationships and trying to find a way to make money. So that's really where my path started to change. I went to work for my father, who runs restaurants up here, and I did that for, the foreseeable future. It was about a decade of me doing that.
Yeah. Are you serving tables, bussing, dishes, like all the above?
Yeah, all the above. I started out serving tables. I kind of did everything. I worked in the kitchen. I was bussing tables, cleaning dishes. And actually where my path started to really change was at about 2021. I was given the opportunity to run my own restaurant. So I had a choice to make. Do I continue going to college or do I take on this opportunity? For me growing up, a lot of folks want to be firefighters, right? They want to be lawyers. They want to be all this. I wanted to be a server. Weirdly enough, I wanted to do that. I wanted to take care of people. I wanted to get that kind of instant gratification of providing that service. So I decided to move into the restaurant route, and I bailed out of college and I started running my own restaurant at 21. And I did that for the next 9 years.
Yeah. And I mean, did you like doing that? Because I mean, I also worked in the restaurant industry for about a decade. I did not move up the ladder at all. It definitely was not my calling, but is it something you enjoyed doing?
Truthfully, it was. I really enjoyed it. I think there's a lot of life lessons to be learned in the restaurant business. I think it forces you to kind of grow up a little bit quicker, to learn kind of that chaotic environment. You're also met with so many different personalities from the front of the house to the back of the house, and everything in between, the guests that are coming in. You really have to be quick on your toes, right? And you have to learn to kind of appreciate the hell that everybody has been through to get to the place that they're currently at. And I really thoroughly enjoyed it. I met a lot of really cool people, a lot of cool Alaskan families who had been here for a number of years. And it was something that I thought I could see myself doing for quite a while.
So what was that first winter like up here? Like, because you're no longer just coming up here and enjoying the summers. Like, what was your first winter like?
It was dark, for lack of better terms. And I have never been a real good winter guy. So I pretty much hunkered down. I had cabin fever by like November 15th.
It's like you just did all the things you're not supposed to do during the winter.
Yeah, I did not listen to anything. And it took me, honestly, 15 years probably. It was probably only about 3 years ago that I really started to embrace the wintertime and to embrace what the beauty is that is the winter and what there is to do during the winter. I always looked at it as this negative, like, I got to go shovel again. I got to go do this. I got to go do that. Like, come on. But I think as many of us, you start to figure out, there is a lot to still be done.
Right. Would you say it was because you mentioned dark, like what was the cold like for you? Is that something that was kind of a shock for you as well? Because I mean, we actually had like real winters like 10, 15 years ago, like not really what we have now, where this last winter, it's, it's like no snow really whatsoever.
Yeah.
So, was the cold like also something you had to really get used to?
Not for me, not terribly. I've never been afraid of the cold in any sense. I've always kind of made this joke, you can always put on more clothes. But if it's too hot, you can only get so naked, right? So I didn't struggle too much with the cold. The dark did start to mess with me a bit. You go to work, it's dark. You leave work, it's dark. Like everything you want to do is in the dark. That was kind of difficult. So I started focusing more on the 2 points of the day that I found most beautiful, which honestly are to me the sunrises and the sunsets. I think it's so easy to talk about the darkness, and it's so easy to complain about how dark it gets. But what people don't realize is how magnificent and how long our sunrises and sunsets are during the wintertime. So that became my kind of focus point.
That's really good. So after, we'll say about 15 years at this point, then, how, if someone coming up for their first winter, what are some tips and tricks you would recommend that they do to try to ease the transition into it?
I would say just don't stop living, right? Like find something that you enjoy. If you enjoy doing it during the summertime, you can enjoy doing it during the wintertime. I mean, I see folks all the time who are on fat tire bikes hitting these trails during the winter, and they're loving life. If you like going on walks during the summer, throw on a pair of snowshoes and go for a walk during the winter. Like, it's not as terrible. Or if you're walking through the neighborhood, just throw on some ice cleats or throw on a good pair of boots. Like, you don't have to change too much of what your current routine is to still get out and enjoy it.
No, I really like that.
Yeah.
So what would you say are some of your favorite winter activities now that you're a real and true sourdough and been there, done that, and you're all about winter now. Like, this guy won't stop talking about winter.
Well, honestly, it took me having kids. So a couple years back, it was 3 years ago now, we put our kids into ski lessons up at Hilltop. And I, before that point, had put on skis one time in my life, and that was when we were living in Utah. I was with the Boy Scouts. I went with some friends, and we went skiing. And all I remember is going full send down the mountain like a psycho, not knowing what I was doing. It was the scariest thing ever. But we put our kids into ski lessons, and they really, really started to enjoy it. So one day, my wife and I rented skis, and we went up on the side of the hill, and we let our kids teach us what they had learned and teach us how to ski. Since that day, really, that has been kind of our bread and butter. We love getting out, and we love taking on Hilltop. We don't necessarily love taking on the big mountain of Alyeska. That's a little much.
Yeah, nothing wrong with that. I'm definitely more on the side of hardly ever having skied before. I've done like the cross country skiing a lot, but it's so different. You might as well not have even done it if you're trying to do the downhill stuff.
Yeah. So that same winter, we signed them up for cross country as well as downhill. And my son, the first night we took him out cross country skiing, my wife really had gotten into it, and she was going a couple nights a week. She was going on the weekend. She was hitting it really hard. And we're skiing around in Kincaid. They got that nice little open field track that they have for cross country. And my son had fallen for probably the 5th or 6th time, and he looked up at me and he was like, "Dad, why can't we just do this going downhill? Like, why do I got to work so hard?" And I had to have one of those moments where I was like, okay, I got to teach my son this lesson. But at the same time, dude, I kind of feel what you're saying. Like, I also wish that we could only be going downhill. That would be a lot funner for me. So, yeah.
Yeah, I've heard someone say before, it's like, how did that initial pitch session go for like cross country skiing? It's like, hey, downhill, that part that sucks when you're going between the lift and where the actual hill is? Yeah, let's do that. Yeah, only that.
Only that. And that was kind of how it went for us. And he, they ended up really getting into it, and that was awesome. And again, just another point of where my kids kind of taught me a lesson in that sense of like, okay, dude, you gotta get out and you gotta enjoy it. And you can stay at home, you can, cabin fever it out, you can bail on the couch and not do nothing, or you can just embrace it for what it is and get out and enjoy it. Because the truth of the matter is, it's a good portion of our year. It's 8 months out of the 12-month season is winter. And so if you don't do it, you're gonna dread so much of your life.
What would you say it's like raising a family here in Alaska and Anchorage specifically?
Honestly, it's great. I think Anchorage has had some really big changes over the last 15, 20 years. I think we're flirting a little bit more with kind of that big city vibe where you're a little bit more concerned about letting them have that freedom. But the truth is there's still a lot of good to be had. And if we get out, my kids get to experience life, and they're not stuck behind a screen. They're not stuck to a TV all day. They're not sitting on a couch. They're out exploring. They're wanting to do all the things, right? And we got them into it pretty young. We started dirt biking. We started archery. We started skiing and focusing on things that can get them outside.
How, I guess, family friendly would you say Anchorage is? Are you guys able to find like a lot of events that you guys can go to, or is it stuff you kind of have to orchestrate more on your own?
No, truthfully, there's a ton going on for kids all the time, whether it's simple play dates at the park, which I think Anchorage has some really slept on great parks, whether it's the Polar Bear Park down there off DeBar area, or it's the Apple Park in South Anchorage. We have a really good amount of parks, as well as some great activities. Anchorage is nice because we've always considered it as kind of a small city with big city amenities, right? And as we're growing, we're kind of losing that small city type feel, but you still have all these big city amenities. We have the Alaska Club we can go swimming at year round, especially now the South Anchorage, where you have that nice new water park. You have the trampoline parks. You have Dave and Buster's or Chuck E. Cheese, or all these great things that are designed with kids in mind. And so we're able to keep them really busy.
So let's back up a little bit here. Water park. What's the deets on this? I was not aware we were getting a water park at any point here.
Yeah. So Alaska Club.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
Locations all over.
Okay.
Their south facility has always had a pool. I grew up going to that pool, and it had a water slide. I thought we were at like not SeaWorld, but at whatever water park. Yeah, whatever major water park you think of in the lower 48. Every time we went, it was awesome, and I grew up going there. And we've been members of the Alaska Club for a few years now. Well, this last year and a half, they built out an entire addition to their pool that now has a complete kids play area with several play structures and slides and spouts and all sorts of stuff, and one new big slide. So it's great. And my kids are at an age now where they can just go and they can just play. And, I sit around or I swim with them or do whatever, but they can just have fun and do whatever. And it's year round, which is great. It could be the dead of winter, -10 outside. You look at all the emergency exits are all frosted over on all the edges with all the ice and everything, but they're just having the time of their life.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay. So if Anchorage, like for some reason you guys couldn't live in Anchorage anymore, like what other part of Alaska do you think you'd like to live in?
I would 100% come out to the valley. I would go to Palmer. I would go to Wasilla. I'd go to somewhere that had a little bit more space, kind of similar amenities. Or I would go south. I would go to Soldotna, Homer area. Homer would probably be my dream. But Homer has gotten, expensive. Palmer's kind of at the place. Palmer, Wasilla are at the place where they're affordable. You get land, you get space. And you get a little bit more freedom than you do in Anchorage.
Right. So affordability, space, and having more freedom. Are there any other perks of living in Palmer or Wasilla that you can see?
I mean, those three kind of hit it big for me, to be honest with you.
It's like, what more do you want? Yeah.
Right? Like we're a pretty big dirt bike family. We've got 4 bikes for all 4 individuals in our family, and it'd be super great on a weekend to take all 4 dirt bikes out and hit the trails and go to Walmart or, just do all the normal things you would do in a car, but on a dirt bike. That would be a ton of fun.
It's like, sounds like you guys would really fit right in, like where I've got my house. So, I'll let you know where that's at. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you kind of have a unique perspective here because you've seen Alaska kind of develop over the course of like nearly 2 decades at this point.
Sure.
What have been the biggest changes during that time period?
I mean, I think growth is probably number one. Everywhere has just gotten so built out. The running joke in Anchorage is, where is there left to even build, right? And do stuff, being right there on the inlet and butted up against the mountains, like you have limited space in order to build. I would say the downside is really just kind of the sketchiness of it, right? And it's something that I hate to talk about, and it's something that I hate to think about because it is so tough. And growing up, like Anchorage was the spot. That was the home. Like you had so much freedom. Me and my cousins, we would bike all over South Anchorage and just, have all the freedom in the world. And I don't know that I would allow my kids that same kind of freedom now, right? Like it's just a little bit more sketchier. We have a little bit more of a homeless problem now. The drug problem in Anchorage is obviously an issue. So on as far as downsides go, I would say that's kind of a bigger downside for sure. And I think it's an inherent problem that every city faces when it comes to growth of that city and population increase. So I think it was inevitable at some point. But it's also mismanaged, right? And I don't think it's managed very well. So to me, that's kind of the biggest downside for sure. But at the same time, we now have a Dave and Buster's. We now have all these things we never had that I had as a kid, that allow for some safer spaces in more controlled environments, that can still kind of give them that freedom. And if we want to explore and we want to adventure, we just get out of the city. We go south or we go north or we do anything that we want to do outside of Anchorage.
Right. Yeah, and that is pretty disappointing. Well, I don't know if disappointing is even the right word, but yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. Like Anchorage has definitely got some downsides to it.
Sure.
And yeah, that's something some people just kind of want to gloss over. Like they're creating like almost like the brochure version of Anchorage and Alaska. And it's like, no, let's talk about that.
Yeah.
For y'all, do you feel like any sense of insecurity and like not being safe where you guys are at? Or is this, is this dad with a heightened sense of like always being alert and on guard, kind of thinking ahead and thinking worst case scenarios?
I think it's a bit of both.
Okay.
For sure. And funny stories, last night is a great example. We had went and done the coastal trail yesterday. We drove out to Point Warrenzoff. We pulled out the bikes. We biked downtown. We hung out. The kids got ice cream. Mom and I got a beer. We biked back. Like, beautiful night. We get home, and I was like, I'm going to unload those bikes later. So fast forward to bedtime, I go to unload the bikes, and I get them unloaded. I get them put into the garage. I go right inside. I never closed my garage. And woke up this morning, and I get an alert on my phone that shows that my garage closed, and I went, oh, my gosh. I'm talking to my wife. I'm like, did I forget to close the garage last night? And she's like, yeah, but it's okay. Like, everything's there. And so I think it's a little bit of both, right? And I super appreciate where it is that we live. I think we live in a pretty good neighborhood and a safe environment. Obviously, with the sense that I was able to leave my garage open all night and not have all my stuff stolen. But I wouldn't do that every night and feel safe with that.
Yeah, no, that's probably about the best analogy or anecdote I can think to kind of explain it.
Sure.
And I mean, that's, that's part of town you're probably not going to have to worry about it very much. There are other parts of town where I'd be like, you better tie everything down.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. Like I would double lock everything, get extra security and outdoor cameras and the whole nine. Where we're at's a little bit more secluded and a little bit safer, quote unquote.
Right. Outstanding. So, what about Homer is really appealing to you?
Well, I've always loved the ocean. Like I am a big West Coast ocean guy. Both my dad and stepdad's family are all from Santa Cruz, California, northern coast of California. I grew up loving the ocean and everything about it. So I really love Homer. It's surrounded by ocean. It's right there. It's a little bit more laid back with a focus on community as well as just kind of hard work and it's just gorgeous. It is gorgeous.
Yeah, that's pretty hard to debate there.
Yeah.
So yeah, in addition to like getting out and enjoying Alaska and everything that it has to offer, I mean, you do work as lender with First Rate Financial. So tell us a little bit on that side. Like, I guess what are we seeing for people who are thinking about moving up here as far as rates and what they might expect if they're looking at the market up here?
Yeah. So, I mean, the rates have been really interesting this year, right? We keep hearing, we're just waiting for the next thing, right? We're waiting for a 10-year treasury auction, or we're waiting for the latest unemployment numbers or the job market updates. The truth is they're not really going anywhere. We haven't seen any major cuts or changes that people have been expecting, and I think waiting for. But the truth is you're marrying the house, you're dating the rate, right? We can always go forward and do a refinance or do something to help you with that rate change once they come down. But we're still seeing massive competition out there on these homes, right? If it starts with a 3 or a 4, 300,000, 400,000, they're getting multiple offers, overnight, and competitive offers, and people trying to come out of pocket to raise that price over asking. So it's a tough scenario. Everybody obviously would love to be back into the 2s and 3s. I think the truth is what that would take is incredibly detrimental for our country. So just kind of remembering that you're marrying that house, right? We can always adjust your rate later.
Yeah, and I mean, I hear it from people all the time that are like, well, we're just going to wait till we get to like 2 or 3%. It's like, dude, you don't want that.
Yeah.
Like, the inventory is a lot lower now than what it was even back then. And if we suddenly had that rate drop, like, it would be absolute chaotic bloodbath. Like, to a point where it's like I might even step back and be like, well, I'm going to take a bit of a break here for a couple of years, so I'm not going to be like, I'm going to hear a bunch of people complaining they spent over $100,000 extra on houses.
Yeah, right.
So it's like, yeah, brutal. Sometimes what you want is probably not what you need.
Yeah, and I just saw a great fact last week that for every percent the interest rate drops, they expect 500,000 buyers to enter the market nationwide. So that's so much more competition. And especially in Alaska right now, we are seeing nonstop equity gains since, pre-COVID. But you just look from COVID till now, homes are considerably more expensive, and they're continuing to accelerate to higher equity. So, I made a great flyer at the beginning of the year that was kind of breaking this down and how your equity gains are outpacing your interest rates. So you may be paying $1,000 more a month for this home, but you're gaining anywhere between $2,000 and $3,000 a month in equity on this home. So waiting until those rates to go down, you're missing out on so much. And the truth is when you're renting and you're waiting to buy, you are allowing inflation to control your life, right? Every time that things go up in price, it is controlling your life. It is making things harder on you. By buying a fixed asset like a home, you are now benefiting from that inflation that was so detrimental into your life just however long ago.
Yeah, and that's a really good way of putting it. Like, I think a lot of people kind of get fixated on, because I mean, real estate is a long-term play just by the nature of it. And I think a lot of people kind of go into it with a short-term, month-to-month kind of a mindset. Whereas real estate, you have to think more like in the terms of years, 5 years, a decade, 20 years, what's this going to look like? And if you're going into this with like the month-to-month perspective, it's never going to be the right time.
Agreed. And part of that flyer that I had put out was to do some projections. You know, the average home in Anchorage right now is roughly 420 to 450, I want to say. But the projections for the average home in Anchorage in 2030 is close to $600,000.
Dang.
So, you know, do you want to wait? Right? Like, do you really?
Yeah, well, there's, so I mean, this is more so in the Valley with,
Yeah.
you know, the Facebook groups there. But every time you have a listing, you post in there, you talk about it, there's a cabal of like 4 or 5 people that go on there and instantly laughing it and disparaging it and being like, oh, there's no way that's going to sell, blah, 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 blah. And it's like, on one hand, you just want to laugh them off and just completely discredit them. You know, on the other hand, it's like, okay, well, for them and their perspective, what they're used to prior to 2020, what we're seeing now has to be laughable.
Sure.
But what they're not seeing is average sold price, like in the Valley at least, has gone up about $130,000 per average home sold, like in the Matsu Valley. So it's like, it's just, yeah, and they're like, I have talked 5 people into not buying any homes in the past couple of years. It's like, dude, I wouldn't be talking about that because, he's pray nobody decides to come after you later for legal action. Jeez.
Right. There's financial advisors, and then there's you, the financial disadvisors, who are not doing these people any service.
Yeah. It's like, I doubt it. But you do need just one litigious person to be like, hey, I didn't buy a house because you told me not to.
Yep.
And I lost out on $100,000 over the course of like that 5-year period. So, yeah. Long shot, but, someone might try it eventually.
Absolutely.
Okay. So let's go ahead and wrap up here real quick.
Yeah.
What are the pros and cons for you of living in Alaska?
Pros. This is the last, in my opinion, kind of the last real free state. We are extremely removed from kind of the political drama that you see down in the lower 48. That's one main reason that kind of keeps me here is I can have conversations. I can have real thought-provoking conversations with folks who don't necessarily agree the way that I agree, and they're respectful, they're honorable, they're kind. They're people that I would buy dinner or have over to my house or allow them to watch my kids, whether we kind of believe the same or not. So to me, that's a huge pro about being able to live here. I also appreciate, again, the freedom, the freedom to do what it is that we want to do, whether it's take off and go fishing, whether it's, get out and explore, go on hikes, the endless amount of beauty that this state has to offer, minutes or hours away from us. I mean, it's as close or as far as you want it to be. There's so many amazing things to go out and do. Downsides, the darkness can get a little wearing on you. If you're not getting out and you're not enjoying it and you're not purposeful with your day-to-day routines, you can easily get stuck in that Groundhog Day mentality where every day feels the same. It's always dark. There's always something to be negative about. That happens. That happens to the best of us. I strive to be an optimist every day and look at all the good that comes out. But boy, I'll tell you what, come December, January, I'm ready to get the heck out of here and go to Hawaii. So I would say that can be a little bit of a con. But again, with some proper planning and some outlooks and realizing that Hawaii is only a 6-hour direct flight from here is a big pro. And all of that is very, very manageable with some kind of thought out planning.
Yep. Outstanding. All right. Well, Mike, thank you very much for joining us and just kind of sharing your perspective, your hard gained wisdom gotten over the years about what it's like living in Alaska. So really do appreciate that. And everyone else, thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time.